Hello, Obophiles, and welcome to another Technique Tuesday. Today, we're talking about multiphonics. Let's get into it. So the oboe is primarily a melodic instrument. It gets some of the prettiest melodies in the symphonic literature. But there is a special technique on the oboe known as multiphonics. And multiphonics, just how it sounds, multiphonics, multiple sounds, is a technique you can use to make lots of notes come out of the oboe at the same time. Now, if you've ever been a beginner oboe player or you've taught a lot of beginners, you definitely know that this happens by accident a lot. So a lot of the notes on the oboe, especially when you're starting out, might not come out right away when you haven't really gained control of your mouth and airstream. So you might get things where holes aren't being covered all the way. Things like that, where you're going for the note, but because something is not being covered, you get other notes on top of that fundamental note. Now, multiphonics can be a lot of fun. So in this video, I'm going to show you some multiphonics that I like. I'll give you 3 easy ones to just kind of get started with them. And I'll give you a little introduction on how they're used in modern oboe techniques and kind of how to practice them. Okay, so the first things first. There are different kinds of multiphonics. There are multiphonics that sound really like beating. And multiphonics that sound really smooth. Multiphonics that come out really easy, and other ones that have to really manipulate the reed and airstream to make happen. So here are some easy ones that I think everyone can do pretty easily on any instrument. This one, the fingering that I used is double forked. So forked on top and forked on bottom, or 1-3, 1-3. In particular, it's pretty easily. You can kind of really just let it go. Now it sounds, like a multiphonic. You can really show off the honky sound of the multiphonic there. The other one that I like is 2-3, 1-2. And that one is more of a softer multiphonic. You get really a lot of higher pitches that don't sound as full on the oboe. And let's do one more. Let's try 1-2, 1 C key. So that one you get a lower sounding multiphonic, and it's not as beaty. So those are 3 to just kind of have fun with. And let's get into kind of how multiphonics work in the symphonic literature. So I'll put an article about this with a lot more detail on my website at obophiles.com, which I'll link to in the description. But the summarized version is that multiphonics come up a lot really in the avantgarde kind of style, in the turn of the century or 20th century works, or even now 21st century works, when they're trying to create an effect of like noise or rattling and getting away from the oboe as just like a very pretty instrument. As a result, a lot of composers might dictate or notate the multiphonics as chords, but it's really hard to kind of suss out what notes are actually sounding. In fact, there's a study, I don't remember what book it's in, I think it's like 20th century oboe playing or something like that, where they did a study to have people kind of notate what they heard from different multiphonics, and the answers were all very, very different. So people will kind of hear different overtones come out to them. So that's really interesting about the multiphonics. But a lot of composers would start out writing as chords and indicating kind of what they wanted to sound like, which is a little confusing because every oboe is going to produce a little bit different kind of overtone series. And so the multiphonics may not work on every oboe. So you have to find the fingerings that will work for you on your instrument. Later on, composers started to just write fingerings over the notes that they wanted to be multiphonic. So that's a lot more helpful, especially if they indicate what kind of instrument that they wrote it for, and you happen to be playing that kind of instrument. If not, you may need to adjust in order to produce the sounds that the composer was intending. Then I think the most like advanced way is just to indicate like the complexity of the multiphonic that is desired, and then have the performer look up different fingerings that will produce that effect. And you can kind of see that there's not a lot of specific information, but the performer is expected to look up or find multiphonics that would work in that context. And again, very rarely are they expected to like kind of sound any specific pitches. An exception to that is this one chorale written by Marby. I think if I remember correctly. There it is. Okay, so he does have this like nice kind of chorale effect, and the multiphonics he chooses written for a Larray oboe, which just happens to be, so that's good. And then you can do the dynamics and expressive effects as you would with any other pitch. So here's what I might do with just like a normal chorale line. And he asks you to do it on the multiphonics. And so you want to think of the multiphonics as not just like a novelty invention, even though like, when I present them to any students, I do kind of just treat them as like a fun thing you can kind of do in the oboe. But really use them as another expressive tool to make music. So there's another kind of multiphonic called the double harmonic, which is used, the only example that I know is in the Barrio Sequenza, and I think Holliger and maybe Elliott Carter use them in their own oboe works. And those, the intention is to get the harmonic, so if we play a D, we're getting the fundamental of the D, but there's all these overtones happening on top of it. And if I open the second octave key, I can isolate one of those overtones, and that'll be it's like a 12th above. But to get the multiphonic version, we want to do that twice. So let's hear the fundamental first, and then the single harmonic, and then the double harmonic. Usually these fingerings will be indicated, but you need to use your judgment and listen to recordings to figure out what's most appropriate for, that expressive moment. An important thing to remember about multiphonics is that you still need a working reed. A good reed is a good reed for most cases. So if you're playing on like a not functioning reed, these multiphonics may not work for you. If you need help fixing your reeds, I have videos for that, or you can buy reeds at oboefiles.com. Okay, I think that kind of covers multiphonics on the oboe, at least an introduction. If you want more information on this, definitely check out some books. Libby Van Klein has an excellent book called The Oboe Unbound, and it goes over a lot of extended techniques. And the other book is, I think, 20th Century Oboe. I'll put links in the description for those so you can check them out. And of course, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more oboe videos. Hope you enjoyed this Technique Tuesday, and we'll see you on the next one. Oh yeah, when in doubt, play beautifully.